everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com back again to talk about AEW Dynamite. Lots and lots of things happened on this show, so I can't waste too much time giving a bit of an intro and everything. Let's just talk about how good the show was, and there's only one way of finding out how good the show was. That's by assigning each individual segment a lovely individual grade. That's right, it's time for AEW Dynamite Graded. We start things off with a big singles match between Kenny Omega and Matt Sydal. Non-title, of course, but if Sydal wins, then he gets a title shot in the future. Don Callis is on commentary and JR shows a bit of fire, arguing with Don Callis, saying, "Get out of here, Don, you big stupid son." But wait, he doesn't quite say that. But he's fired up, JR, this episode. It's good to hear. Omega is very, very wary of Sydal's speed and his strikes in the early stages of this match. At one point, he avoids a high kick by basically throwing himself under the bottom rope to get away. Sydal builds a bit of momentum with a spinning kick and a knee strike, a big Frankensteiner from the middle rope as well, but he goes to repeat the Frankensteiner and Omega slips away and Sydal's legs hit the top rope and he flips back like painfully into the ring. It's a cool spot. Omega then runs through his signature offense. He goes for the V-trigger, but Sydal rolls him up for a very near fall. Then he hits another knee strike and the lightning spiral and gets another near fall. He's coming close here. Omega just can't put Sydal away. He goes for the one-winged angel. Sydal ranas out of it. Then he heads up top. Omega leaps up and hits a leaping V-trigger while Sydal's perched on the top rope. That's very cool to see. He goes for another one-winged angel. Sydal rolls him up for another near fall. Then he finally nails the V-trigger and finally gets the one-winged angel, and Kenny Omega wins the match. But it took a lot out of him. This gets an A- from me. Just a really good, exciting singles match to start the show. Matt Sydal was never going to win, which took away a little bit of the tension for me. But apart from that, I have no complaints. We go backstage and my boy Alex Marvez is with John Silva and the Dark Order. John Silva is obviously very excited for his TNT title match against Darby Allin later on tonight, and he shows that he's ready for it by practicing some simulated coffin drops with the boys in the Dark Order. They do a bit of a trust fall. He runs out of the way. They let Alan Angels fall, which is sad to see, but you know, he's the new John Silva of the group effectively, which is a shame for him. Then Silva walks off slightly to the side where Hangman Page is, and Hangman goes, "Hey, you nervous?" And Silva's like, "No, man, I'm really excited. Johnny Hungee." And Hangman goes, "Well, that's all right, but just know this. No matter what happens, if you win or lose, I'm sure your friends are going to be proud of you." And I'm like, Hangman, what? It's too early in the show. Hangman now has a singles match to get ready for, and it's against Cezar Bononi. As Bononi makes his entrance, he goes over to the front row and chats to JD Drake and Ryan Nemeth. Apparently they've all become little friends. I mean, that is a group of massively different personalities, but fair enough, we'll see where it goes. This is really a tale of size versus speed, which is a little bit of an unusual situation for Hangman. He gets shoved down early on and slammed on the apron, but predictably he fights his way back with big strikes and chops, and he's just such a brave cowboy, isn't he, to be honest? He no-sells a big right hand from Bononi and actually manages to suplex the big guy, then goes to the apron, buckshot lariat, and that's enough for 3. This gets a C+ grade. It was a short match, it did its job. Bononi got some offense in, and they got out of there, which is totally fair enough. I'm interested in Bononi, JD Drake, and Ryan Nemeth, though. The new Shield, as it were. I want to see what happens with them going forwards. Also, do check out Bononi's Twitter account. I believe he's raising money to treat his wife's illness. I don't think she's doing very well, so do check that out. Obviously, a good cause and everything, and hopefully she ends up okay. We head now to a strange urban location. It looks a bit like Sting and Darby Allin's warehouse, but even more rundown. I don't think it's the same location. And Lance Archer's in there cutting a menacing promo. He says that he interrupted Sting's interview last week because he's trying to cement his own legacy. He says Sting's one of his heroes. He'll be remembered as one of the greatest of all time. But Archer wants to make sure that people remember his name as well. Next up, it's time for a Tony Schiavone stage interview with Dr. Britt Baker, D.M.D, fresh off that excellent bloody no DQ match with Thunder Rosa on last week's show. Britt snatches the mic from Tony. She's not impressed with the crowd's response because she thinks she should be getting more cheers, more praise for what was an amazing match last week and for all the hell that she went through in that match, covered in blood. She says that Thunder Rosa should be thanking her daily for allowing her to be part of history that she has written in her own blood. I'm like, wow, Britt, what a line. And it's not the only killer line in this promo from Britt. She also says, how dare Thunder Rosa stand there and say that she has put the AEW women's division on the map. If that's true, then why is everyone talking about Britt? She also says, hey, Mick Foley, if it took you 20 years to be a hardcore legend, but it only took me one night. I'm like, Britt, firing at everybody. She closes by saying that Tony Khan seems to be out there looking for every legendary name under the sun, when really he's got the biggest legend right under his nose. And the letters AEW will always come second to the letters D.M.D. Whoa, what a promo. It gets an A grade. I've got nothing else to say. This was awesome. Backstage we go and we find Christian, who's just one of the guys. He's just making friends with all the boys in the back. He's friends with Dante Martin, he's there, and also the Varsity Blondes, and he's just chatting it up, but they are interrupted by Frankie Kazarian. They play off the fact that they go way back. Obviously, they were both in Impact at the same time and also feuded in Impact, or had a very good ladder match at one point, which I covered in my video on why Christian's one of the greatest of all time. Do check that out on Cultaholic. But anyway, Kazarian has a bit of an issue with Christian's slogan on his t-shirt, the Outwork Everyone slogan, and he says, Christian, when does the work part begin? And Christian says, funnily enough, Kaz, it begins next week, but guess what? I don't have an opponent. How about it's you? Kaz seems up for it, and it looks like that's going to be a match next week. Meanwhile, the Varsity Blondes and Dante have left Christian because they've got to go and get ready for a match against the Pinnacle, FTR, and Shawn Spears, with the rest of the stable accompanying them at ringside. And the faces come out hot. They're actually in control early on. I thought this would basically be a squash match because it's the Pinnacle's first match together, but no, the faces are in control. They knock their opponents to the outside. They go for a big triple dive, but Wardlow walks around the ring and stands in the way, and they think better of it. What's he going to do? He's going to catch all three of you? Come on, guys. We then get a lot of healing from the heels. Tully even gets involved, laying in a shot on the outside out of view of the referee, and they get back in the ring. But the faces manage to get a hot tag to Dante Martin. He runs wild for a little bit, but it doesn't end that well for him. Dax Harwood nails him with a brainbuster and then boosts him onto Shawn Spears' shoulders for the Death Valley driver, and the Pinnacle pick up their first win. The heels attack the faces and dump them out of the ring, and Tony gets in for an interview, and we get a very passionate promo from FTR. Cash Wheeler says he doesn't have a wife and kids at home, he's got no family. This stable is his family. Dax Harwood then calls out Santana and Ortiz, saying they've got no salt in them, they're phonies, they're not real tough guys. This isn't stand-up comedy, this is professional wrestling, and FTR are the best at it. MJF then gets on the mic inevitably and says he thought that Chris Jericho would have tried to come out here by now, but he actually hasn't, and he says, come on Chris, get your boys together, come out and fight us. Oh wait, I forgot you were scared. Tony then says, to be fair, MJF, you did beat up his stable the other week, and I think they're probably all a bit banged up right now. And MJF just glares at him, and so does Wardlow, and lays a hand on his shoulder, and Tony quietens down pretty fast. MJF says that next week he has a gift for all of the Pinnacle, because when you're in the Pinnacle, you're always on top. This gets a B grade from me. Solid match. You know, obviously the correct decision for the Pinnacle to win. I like that they gave Shawn Spears probably the most unheralded member of the group the pinfall. That was a pretty good decision. And yeah, we'll see where it goes. We'll see what MJF's gift is next week. We now head to another warehouse. So many warehouses in Jacksonville, it turns out. This one's comparatively nicer by the standards of, like, you know, Darby Allin, Sting, Lance Archer, as we saw earlier. This is a bit of a bougie warehouse, and it belongs to Team Taz. Taz says he wants to clear up some rumours about the team falling apart, and says that Brian Cage has apologised to all the rest of the team for what he said last week, where he respected Sting. He said that Ricky Starks was wrong to question Sting's toughness, and the rest of Team Taz didn't take too kindly to him stepping out of line. But according to Taz, Brian Cage has apologised, and just to confirm it, Taz goes around the group and says, Cage, you good? He's like, who better? Powerhouse Hobbs, you good? Yep. Hook, you good? Yep. Ricky Starks, you good? And Starks is like, yep. Starks isn't okay with it. Tony Schiavone is putting in an absolute shift this week because it's time for another interview segment on the stage, which I think we should now rename the Shavonny stage, with QT Marshall. QT says he's sick of being known as just Cody's friend, and he's very frustrated, and that explains his actions recently. And he says, yes, being Cody's friend has its perks. Look, for example, my wife's in the crowd, and she gets to see me live out my dream each and every week. And I'm like, wife? You were with the bunny for like a long while in AEW. What? In fact, I think QT says he's known his wife since they were 8 years old. So, yeah. I feel like they should have left this part out of the promo, maybe. QT says that Cody taught everybody the values of doing the work, but honestly, who does more work than QT Marshall? Who gets Cody his coffee? Who makes sure that his t-shirts are cut the right way? Who makes sure that Cody is able to get back to the hotel at the end of the night so that he can go to bed with his wife, while QT stays behind and does extra work and his wife sleeps alone? And because of all this frustration, QT wants to prove that he belongs here, and he wants an exhibition match with Cody. And here comes Cody. He calls him out, and here comes Cody with his arm in a cast from that Penta match the other week, and he's taking his headset off, so you know it's real. You know this isn't part of the show. This is real. Cody accepts the challenge, but he does so in a very strange way. He says, "Yes, I accept your challenge, and I'm not going to take it easy on you, and I'm going to try and beat you, but I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to hold back when it comes to things like the figure 4 leg lock. I'm not going to lock it in fully. Or if I get you hooked up for the crossroads, I'm not going to follow through with it." And I'm thinking, that's really patronizing. Surely that's going to cause QT to snap even further. At least I hope that's what happens, because that's a pretty unique storyline. This gets a B- grade. QT Marshall doesn't seem to be the most natural of promos, but you could tell he was really trying here, and I do appreciate the effort. There were one or two little stumbles here and there, but on the whole, I thought it was pretty decent, and I like the storyline in general, apart from the wife bit, because that kind of tries to make us ignore the whole bunny stuff from the past, and it didn't happen that long ago, so I don't quite like that lack of continuity. But the rest of it I thought was absolutely fine. It gets a B- grade from me, but I expect the payoff to be a lot better than the setup. Next up, we get 6-man tag team action as the Young Bucks team up with Brandon Cutler to take on the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid, because of course Pac is injured, Laredo Kid's stepping in. Not a bad replacement at all. We start off with a lot of Lucha exchanges, and then in the words of Lance Archer's theme song, everybody dives. Dives. This is my job, I'm a professional when I write these things, okay? Things just do not slow down in this match for 1 second. There's more Lucha exchanges, Nick Jackson's running all over the place, so is Phoenix, but he gets caught in an indie taker at one point and rolls to the apron to avoid getting caught in a pinfall. But as he does so, Matt Jackson hops over the top rope into a springboard DDT, which Phoenix sells like absolute death. It looks like he's been hit by a truck. He like jackknifes his body on the apron and flops to the outside. But back in the ring, that's all the distraction that Laredo Kid needs. He jumps up to the top rope, nails Brandon Cutler with a Spanish fly, and that's enough for the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid to pick up the win. But he is jumped from behind as he's celebrating by the AEW World Champion Kenny Omega, who hits him with the bell. He starts saying, "I remember you from AAA, I remember you from Fyter Fest 2019 when the Elite teamed up to face you. But now what's happened?" And then he turns his attention to the Young Bucks. Omega says, "Look, 3 years ago I had a choice. I could either stay with the fans that loved me and all my friends in New Japan, or I could go to New York for greener pastures and try and make something of myself there. But instead, I chose AEW, and I chose you two. I chose the Young Bucks and your vision to create the best wrestling promotion in the world." But he says as much as he chose the Young Bucks, they didn't choose him back. And rather than stay as a tight unit, and rather than them, as he puts it, choosing to sit with the cool kids, they decide to choose the likes of Brandon Cutler. He says, "Come on guys, one last chance to sweep me," and he holds up the sign, and the Bucks again refuse to return it. They turn their backs on Kenny, they leave the ring, Cutler goes with them. Kenny's like, "Fine, off you go, I don't need you. Cutler, you go and carry their bags for them. You go and do that, mate." And then Omega turns around, bang, huge double super kick from the Lucha Bros. Absolutely takes his head off. He's bleeding from the lip. It looks great. Also, I hope he's okay. I feel like I was a bit callous there about the whole busted lip thing. Probably hurt, but look good though, Kenny, look good. The Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid all leave. Laredo Kid talks a bit of trash to Kenny as well for what he did earlier. And then the Good Brothers get in the ring and help Kenny to his feet. And he gives the "I'm okay" thumbs up. And the crowd obviously boom for it, which is fantastic. This whole segment gets a B+ grade, but just for the match itself, even though you couldn't really take your eyes off it, and I did sort of enjoy it, I wasn't a huge fan. I like flips and stuff as much as the next guy, but even for me, this was a bit of a spot fest. On the other hand, I thought the post-match stuff was absolutely fantastic, from the Lucha Bros just taking out Omega to what he said to the Young Bucks as well. The best villains are usually the ones who have sort of a point. You can kind of understand where they're coming from, even if you don't necessarily side with them or agree with them. And Kenny does have a point. He's saying the Young Bucks are selfish, and the Young Bucks are selfish. We know that about them. So I do quite like it. Next up, we get a trailer for a new TV series. It looks like Cody and Brandy Rhodes are going to have a reality show. Good for them. But they don't really linger on it too much afterwards, so we'll have to wait and find out about that. Instead, we head to a promo shot from somebody's home, from Jon Moxley and an injured Eddie Kingston. Eddie's in a cast. He's really not happy, obviously, that the Good Brothers and Omega injured his leg. He tries to get up and walk because he's so fired up and talking trash to the camera, and Moxley's like, "Come on, Eddie, what are you doing? Sit down." Moxley says he doesn't really know the Young Bucks and he doesn't really like them, but he thinks that he owes them one because they saved him from a broken neck last week. So he says, "You know what? If you want to get involved in this war between myself, Eddie, and the Good Brothers, then you better be prepared to get your hands dirty. Good promo. I love the interplay between Moxley and Kingston. It's always so natural. And we head on now to our semi-main event of the night. Conti taking on Nyla Rose, accompanied, of course, by Vicky Guerrero. Conti has been really racking up the wins on Dark recently, which commentary let us know, and she's all fire at the start of this one. She's really going for Nyla Rose, but it's not too long before Rose's power advantage takes control and she starts to dominate the match. She lays Conti over the top rope, of course, and hits that jumping knee strike from the corner. Nyla is not taking her opponent seriously at all. She's doing cocky pins, she's samba dancing to mock her, and instead, Conti decides, I've had enough of this, and she fires up once again and hits her own leaping knee strike from the corner, this time on the apron. Nyla goes for a beast bomb to really try and finish this off. Conti rolls through, and there's a bit of a miscommunication. The action slows down a little bit, but they do well to get it back on track, and Conti nails her finisher, the DDT. I see what you've done there, because that's her name. And it works. She wins, and the finisher looks great, and she's beaten Nyla Rose. Conti celebrates on the middle rope, but Vicky Guerrero grabs her leg from the outside. That allows Nia to drag her down back into the ring and start to beat her down. But she's saved by Hikaru Shida, the champion, coming out with her kendo stick and nailing Nyla Rose in the back. But then someone else comes out to even the odds in favour of Nyla, and it's none other than the Bunny, who comes out, snatches the kendo stick and takes out all the faces. She knows how to swing a kendo stick, the Bunny. Meanwhile, on the stage, Matt Hardy comes out with the Butcher and the Blade and says, look, my stable has been disrespected for too long, and that recent women's tournament you had, that was a total sham because the Bunny wasn't even involved. And Nyla and Vicky go up onto the stage with the rest of Matt Hardy's stable, and they raise their arms, but it's not clear whether or not they're actually aligned with Matt's group yet. This gets a B+ grade. I really enjoyed the match and the story that it told. I just wish that the ending little segment had been a little bit smoother. However, I've complained for ages about AEW's women's storylines not being detailed enough, not being as full of twists and turns and little details here and there as the men's storylines. So this is definitely a step in the right direction. Various moving parts, Conti's rise, Nyla continuing to dominate even if she's not really winning the match. You've got the Bunny coming along, now aligned with Matt Hardy, and you've got the champion Hikaru Shida involved as well. So I think this is a pretty good development. B+ is the grade. Now let's move on to the main event. And that, of course, is Darby Allin defending his TNT Championship against John Silva of the Dark Order. And all the Dark Order are out at ringside, and this match is really fun. I mean, Silva is fired up early on. He nails Darby with a running European uppercut early on, and Darby crumples to the outside. It looks brutal, and Johnny Silva does not let up. He heads to the outside, he's throwing him around in there, back in the ring, kicks to the head, brainbuster for a near fall. He takes him back to the outside and charges, but Darby moves out of the way and Silva crashes into the front row. What an explosive start to this match. Now the Dark Order come into play with Alex Reynolds, Silva's tag partner, of course, helping him over the barrier back to the ringside area, and then Darby goes for a low pay, but Alan Angel shoves Silva out the way and takes the bullet for him. Now somewhere in the back, Sting has seen this and he's not too impressed because he comes out with his baseball bat to even the odds, and the rest of the Dark Order want no part of Sting. Because I mean, if Team Taz are running away from Sting on a weekly basis, what hope do the Dark Order have? Meanwhile, back in the ring, we get a lovely counter from John Silva. Darby goes for his Stun Dog Millionaire thing, but Silva just grabs him and leans back into the Sleeper, into the Queen Slayer, Anna Jay's finisher. Really nice reference to her there. But Darby gets out of it, he heads up top, it looks like he's going to leap onto Silva, but instead he dives backwards with a coffin drop onto all of the Dark Order on the outside. That was a bit needless, Darby, I'll be honest with you, but it does fit his character. It is what someone like Darby Allin would do. Silva gets another near fall, but he cradles Darby too close to the ropes, and Darby is able to just stretch his leg and force the rope break. That was Silva's chance, and he wouldn't get another one. He goes for the powerbomb in tribute to Brody Lee, but instead Darby flips around into a code red and pins John Silva, and that's the match. I really wanted Silva to win this. I get that it's too early in Darby's reign, but man, my heart was with Silva. The two of them have a nice show of respect afterwards, with Sting in the ring as well, and the two competitors bump fists, and then Matt Hardy yanks Darby Allin out of the ring, and his whole stable rushes the Dark Order. The Private Party are involved, Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny. It's all kicking off. But the Dark Order fight bravely back. Conti rushes out and tackles the Bunny, starts laying in shots to her. Darby Allin hits a low pay on Matt Hardy outside the ring. It's all going off, and that's how the show goes off the air mid-brawl. It felt chaotic, I enjoyed it. This gets an A- grade. I loved this match, but I just wish it had more time. I really wish this had been a full feature-length match. It was still very exciting. The aftermath was exciting too. I just kind of wish that Matt Hardy's two big involvements in the night had been a little bit more spaced out perhaps. But generally on the whole, it was a very strong end to the show. But how good was the show overall? I'm giving the overall show an A- as well. Really hot match to start, really hot match to finish. Britt Baker's promo was the best thing on the show, right in the middle. And yeah, I think this was a strong episode of Dynamite, verging on an A, but it gets dragged a little bit back into A- territory. Good show, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic. Let me know what you thought about this week's AEW Dynamite in that comment section down below, and stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.